for pole position today on the cards. Welcome along to qualifying here at Silverstone for round 12 of the Formula One season in 2025. It is the 76th World Championship British Grand Prix, and this time last year we had a 1, 2, 3 on the grid from Britain for the first time ever at Silverstone. 3.66 miles of the track, 220 miles an hour top speed, 2 DRS zones, 18 corners, 8 to the left and 10 to the right. You take your lap distance at full throttle for 77% of that lap. The soft tyre is the C4, brand new for Silverstone this year. The medium tyre is the C3, the hard tyre is the C2. They're standing by with the intermediates because there is a threat of rain in the air. The red arrows will be here in the air tomorrow. The grandstands are packed, and if it was Glastonbury last week, the festival this week is Fastonbury. Who's going to be furious and not just fast today, Martin Brundle?
I am looking forward to this enormously. It is going to be so close. We have both Ferraris in it. I think both Mercedes will be there, at least one Red Bull, and we know the McLarens are fast too. It's very gusty out there, and we know the high speeds of this circuit. Drivers put a lot of faith in their cars going into the corner, a lot of trust that it'll stick. And we've seen a few accidents already. You know, you're flying that car through the air. You're using the air to press it into the ground. And if you suddenly get a tailwind or a crosswind in a critical corner, off you go. But of course, you have to drive as if that's never going to happen. You can't allow for it. You can't go a little bit slower just in case. You've got to commit, especially in qualifying.
Absolutely. 500,000 fans expected here at Silverstone over the weekend. It's a 4-day festival of British and world-class motorsport. Young and old have come to see and cheer on their heroes. And talking of flying through the air, Gabriel Bortoleto was doing a bit of that over the bumps on the grass in the end of the practice session. They've had to rebuild his Sauber car. Ollie Behrman had to go and see the stewards. He's picked up a 10-place grid penalty for a red flag infringement, and that was a bit of a slam dunk for what was a very, very silly decision to aggressively attack the pit lane entry under a red flag. It's his second red flag infringement in 5 races.
Yeah, there are decades past where you'd have been sent home for something like that, actually disqualified from the event. But it wasn't meaning any harm, but you can't start trying to test the pit lane in flat out when there's red panels flashing at you and red flags up, because you just don't know what's round the next corner. And then, of course, he had cold brakes and hit the wall anyway. Absolutely.
10 places for him, 3 places for Kimi Antonelli after crashing into Max Verstappen at the start of the Austrian Grand Prix last week, for which Lando Norris took pole position. Max Verstappen unlucky in qualifying 7 days ago. Pierre Gasly had his spin and Max got caught out by that. He qualified only 7th. He hasn't qualified outside the top 4 here at Silverstone since 2018, and that was 5th on the grid. Now, yesterday, it was all at sea, that Red Bull car. Today looked a lot different, but they've taken downforce off Max Verstappen's car. He says he doesn't need rain. He wants it to be dry. He could be in the mix.
But there are very few drivers who could cope with that, cope with the car moving around at high speed, maybe back-end sliding. We know that Max can, and we know that very few of his teammates have been able to do that. So that's quite a risky one for them, but it gives them good speed during the race, especially if they get in the slipstream with the DRS open at the right part of the racetrack. What news have you got for us, Ted?
Hello, Martin. Hello, Crofty. Hello, everyone from the pit lane. Well, I expect to see everybody queuing at the end of the pit lane, keen as mustard to get out there. I'm seeing the first cars of Alpine and Aston Martin about to do that, and in a minute it is going to erupt into action because they just don't know what the weather is going to do, as I think we have a green light. Certainly I can see it across the pit lane here. So they seem to be waiting for everybody else. We've got a bit of a Northamptonshire standoff here, Crofty, as they seem not want to be, no one wants to be the first one out. But the weather is around in little pockets. It's only showers at the moment, but they have to get out and do some laps. Yeah, it looks like the Astons are going to be followed by the Alpines. They have to get on with it. Franco Colapinto and Pierre Gasly, 18th and 20th in third practice, just as they were on Friday, with very little pace in the car. There is some latent pace in the Aston Martin. They weren't able to show it in third practice because they didn't get their final laps in. But otherwise, Nico Hülkenberg, Gabriel Bortoleto also looking like they'll do well to get out of this Q1 session.
But at least Gabriel Bortoleto's car has been fixed and he is out on the track. 100% finishing record in 9 Silverstone starts for Lance Stroll. What he needs today is to out-qualify his teammate Fernando Alonso. Last time he managed to do that for a Grand Prix, British Grand Prix 2024. He's gone a full year of races without out-qualifying his teammate Fernando Alonso. Pressure could well and truly be on him.
Yes, he's, it was confirmed to me actually over the weekend. A nose and front wing, £250,000.
Whew. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? So when we see them smashed up, there's a farmer from out Oxfordshire way sent me a message saying there will be no rain. Bloke called Clarkson or something. There will be no rain, which is a big statement, Jeremy.
Yeah, but he knows now. Being a farmer, he spends as much time watching the skies as he does watching the telly.
And he does, and he's upwind, of course.
Yeah, upwind, downwind, gusting wind here.
Top drizzle.
Uh-oh, Jeremy. There's drizzle already. Tell you what, Jeremy says no rain. Gasly says we've got some rain. Let's settle this debate and head down to the pit wall. And yes, we've got Zach Brown, CEO at McLaren, on the pit wall, but we've also got prime position on the pit wall exclusively for us for this weekend. Karun Chandhok has all the data at his fingertips and an upturned palm to tell if it's raining on the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight.
Hi, Crofty. Afternoon, everybody. Spitting. Mildly spitting, I would say, with my hand, but it is clearing up. It looks like it's just one cloud that's coming over here, so I think it's okay, which is why people are willing to take the risk of hanging back and go for a little bit of track evolution. So let's see how it is as the session unfolds. But at the moment, I would say it's still okay on slicks.
And on that bombshell, Clarkson didn't mention drizzle and he didn't mention spitting. It was just rain. I can hear it now.
Isn't he meant to be coming to the Grand Prix along with Klevv tomorrow? Whether they're turning up in the tractor or not, I do not know. Foot flat to the floor. His Ferrari-powered Sauber is Gabriel Bortoleto, who one of 6 rookies on the grid in 2024, but they've all driven this track before. And Gabriel in what, F2 and F3 had a 2nd place in a sprint race here in 2023 and goes 1:27.4. Might need to be sprinting a bit faster than that to get himself out of Q1. His teammate Nico Hülkenberg, meanwhile, let's have a look at his progress.
If you look at the engine cover behind them, and that is a big old slide under traction. It's not really an aero issue, that's a mechanical issue there, where you get a bit trigger happy on the throttle, and maybe before your temperatures are fully up to speed. The wind speed now 4 meters per second and gusting. But if you look at the engine cover, the side of that car, it's like a sail. It's something that's going through a corner approaching a couple of 100 miles an hour. It's quite a big sail once, and it disturbs the airflow over the car. We can see it when it's raining. It's a good time to see the airflow of a car when it's raining, or when they put all the green gun, the flow virs on a Friday morning.
On board with Alex Albon in the Williams, who was nudging into the top 10 in practice today, and he's set a couple of respectable sector times on his first push lap. Into the Vale chicane we go, and on power as soon as he can, and there's a little snap, isn't there, as he gets his foot down on 1:26.3. He's put 7/10 between himself and the former Williams driver Franco Colapinto in the Alpine. Then comes Gasly, Stroll, Bortoleto and Hülkenberg, and Max Verstappen now on the track. In fact, every driver has made their way out of the garage. Max is about to start a flying lap. Take us through this, Martin.
This, one of the greatest racetracks that ever existed. Turn 1, they take absolutely flat out. Turn 2, they don't even notice. Heavy braking then for 3. But this is really technical. You've got to get to the right-hand side to open up this tight left-hander called the loop onto the Wellington straight. Ignore the left kink. Now stay right, because it's a left-hander at the end of the straight. DRS open. And you turn in really late. You come in from a really wide apex and touch right at the last point of the corner. Left field, clumsy little double apex right. Give it a breather in the middle, pick the throttle up, catapult out. Woodcote absolutely flat out. And now on a quali lap, you are not going to lift the throttle in that corner ahead of us. You can't see it until now, but you're absolutely full beams through there and still keeping it flat out into Maggott, Beckett, and now you're going to brake and downshift A little bit slower on this right, but pick the throttle up, ride the curb, take the line of least resistance onto the hanger straight. Look at Stowe corner ahead of you, all the Norris grandstands up there inviting you in. Brake late, turn in late, pick up the throttle, down through Val. You can't actually see the track from there when you're sitting on the ground. Two little curbs and a double apex right-hander. The back end of that, Red Bull complaining that he would have to get out of the throttle. Line comes up quickly. We've got a 26 flat, kind of okay.
4 tenths between himself and Alex Albon. Kimi Antonelli just about half a second behind, with Alex Albon still in second fastest, and we're on board now with Lando Norris, who goes second fastest, 10th behind Max Verstappen. Norris with the fastest final sector, where his tyres just a little bit too cold when he started that lap, I wonder. Charles Leclerc was the quickest man on the track during the final practice session earlier today. His teammate Lewis Hamilton didn't get a chance to get his final run fully completed. There was a red flag, and Leclerc only third fastest, which is somewhat of a surprise, because Ferrari, according to Zach Brown, are very much on it, and a big threat to McLaren this weekend, as Piastri goes quicker than Max Verstappen by 4/100ths of a second, and Lewis Hamilton next across the line goes fourth fastest. It's not quite as tight currently as it was in practice, but there's a long, long way to go here. And George Russell, who didn't get the laps in final practice, will certainly be in the mix and goes fifth fastest, separated. The top 6 here, top 7 by 3/10ths of a second.
And they, of course, want to just leave a bit of time on the table. They need a banker lap in, the front runners. Don't take any risk, don't run wide, don't outbrake yourself into a corner. And at the moment, all of the favoured runners for the front row are in play.
And Fernando Alonso in play too, P3 in the Aston Martin with its upgrades for this weekend, as Isaac Hadjar is next across the line and goes 7th fastest. Carlos Sainz had a really good first sector, dropped 3/10ths in the middle part. Ollie Behrman crosses the line 8th, and to remind you, he does have a 10-place grid penalty coming his way.
Now this is nervy for the front runners and those that anticipate certainly being somewhere near the top 10. Is you've got some outliers in there now with Alonso. Behrman's done a time. We've had a Formula 2 race. As you know, the properties of the track changes when that happens, and suddenly you've got people inside the top 10 you wouldn't necessarily expect to be there right up the front like that. And does that mean we got a lot of track evolution? Will they have to go again?
The worry could be for someone like Yuki Tsunoda as well, who's been 18th in qualifying for the last couple of races. Crosses the line, only 14th fastest here. He will definitely be going again. And in a Red Bull car where Verstappen had a 1:26.0, Tsunoda has a 1:26.5. 6/10ths between them, but round about 13 places. Hello, Gordon. Good afternoon. Good to see you here, and he loves his motor cars, does Gordon Ramsay. We see him in Formula 1 more often than not. Franco Colapinto, we can pick him up, big pressure on him with his Alpine seat under threat from Valtteri Bottas, who might be returning back to the sport.
Just stay calm, just tell me what you're thinking.
So we will box end of this lap, and we'll go for two laps of fuel.
On which set of tyres?
This set of tyres.
So they've got to go again, but they don't want to waste a set of softs, otherwise it'll compromise them badly in Q3.
So that's the conundrum there, and the soft tyres were holding up in practice, Martin, for a second run, but when they turn the engines up in qualifying, will they hold up? Because it's an unknown. We've never had the C4 here for a race weekend at Silverstone.
I think it's good we're going softer and softer on the compact. Oh, that's
Colapinto kepleset.
He needed more grip, Franco Colapinto.
Aduh, alah, sumpah kayak Sony Hayes banget. Kayak Apex GP. Persis banget kayak di film.
Well, if he can keep the car going, which he seems to have done, and get out of that gravel, race control will be alright. Gets a massive round of applause.
Persis kayak Apex GP. Colapinto kepleset di tikungan terakhir.
He's got to do a whole lap here to get back to the pits.
Your car's damaged, you're obliged to pull over.
Colapinto cosplay F1 the movie anjir. Kira-kira Max bisa pole gak? Kayaknya sulit deh. Kayaknya sulit. Ada, ya bisa aja, tapi kayaknya sulit banget kan.
Well, he's already having a moment coming out of Stowe. Let's see what happens here. He's doing a lot of steering wheel movement, and he hits the throttle on the paint. And did he Yeah, he did actually hit the wall, but albeit quite gently. Did well to get it out of there. But the etiquette, if you can use a word like that in Formula One, is you must go and hit the brakes off the racing line.
Persis banget dong nggak developnya.
Do not drive on the racing line.
Oh, there's the reaction from the crowd. Last time we commentated on a car doing that, Brad Pitt was driving one of them. I don't think that's a spoiler, it's in the trailer. Yeah. And we've got a red flag.
He's pulled over at pit exit. He's pulled over at pit exit, so I think actually the whole thing vibrating was probably almost certainly the flat spot on the. You can see the one on the front tire, and the rears are not going to be a whole lot better. But you just cannot look how it's hoovering up the gravel look into the side pods. You cannot have that car dropping gravel through Beckett's or Stowe, you know, or Cop's corner turning in a 180, 190, and somebody's left gravel all over the track. So
what it's meant is it's taken about another minute before we've got the red flag. Franco Colapinto is out.
Hamilton kira-kira bisa masuk top 3 nggak?
He has stopped just beyond the pit exit, so we'll need a recovery vehicle.
Kurang tahu lagi.
Come and get that Alpine.
Halo Stella.
Flavio Briatore is thinking on
ganti tur bang. Kagak.
Steve Nielsen, who's here in his role for Formula One and for Liberty, and will be joining the Alpine team, going back to Enstone as their managing director on September the 1st.
Top bloke, Steve. Yep. Formula One will miss him, and Alpine will be pleased to have him there. And a lot of work he's got to do as well in that team. So the front wing end fence is a little bit damaged. But I suspect he's been told to stop because
mobilnya
the
juga
amount of gravel in the thing.
Kepleset kalau pindah, kepleset
but of course,
sendiri.
in practice, if we get a red flag, the time doesn't stop. Practice sessions are defined, and that's that. You just lose the track time. In qualifying, it does stop. So that is why they've still got plenty of time to get out there. But anybody out there on a brand new set of tyres that was going for it, which is Lance Stroll was one of them, has effectively wasted that run.
Lewis Hamilton then and the rest return to the pits. Hulkenberg and Piastri just making their way into the pits, and Lewis at the moment just making his way around Chapel. And while he does that, we can head down to the Skypad. Anthony's got some analysis for us.
Yeah, thanks, Crofty. Let's have another look at that then. So I think where it all started to go wrong was actually on the entry to Vale. So what we usually want to see is the drivers using all of this red curb on the left-hand side. And if you don't get quite on that, you compromise already the entry into the next right. So you've put yourself too far over the circuit on the right-hand side. So you've effectively made this next corner coming up too sharp, whereas you really want to be further over on this part of the track and make less of an acute angle of it, and that line here on the left-hand side allows you to get on power earlier. So that's what we're looking at here. I'll try and clear those away. And as he starts to get on power in that compromised position, it's already starting to complain on the left rear. He's struggling, he gets onto the curb, and now you're onto this heavily serrated part. Gets even worse on the left-hand side, does that serrated edge. So he's got his left-hand side on that part as well for good measure. Now, we all know as drivers really not to accelerate when you're in this position, but in a qualifying lap, you kind of feel like you have to, and that's what he does. And as soon as he does that, stays on throttle, then the car spins around. Combined with that compromised line, around it goes and into the barrier. So now he's limping back round with 4 very flat-spotted tyres. Back to you, Crofty.
Thanks ever so much, Anthony. Franco Colapinto standing by his car currently as it's winched up onto the low loader and taken away, and we can take one final look at his progress through Vale and his lack of progress where he wanted to be through Club Corner. And he ended up in the gravel and him out of qualifying. Ted, let's head down to you.
Yeah, Crofty, you said he's standing by his car. Remains to be seen whether Alpine will be standing by their driver after this. Of course, the rumours that they're looking at Valtteri Bottas to get some kind of baseline out of that car for the rest of the season. Still around the paddock. Team Radio?
Yeah, sorry, I lost the rears. Or I touched a lap, something, it just went the rear.
He did it. He did well to get going again, though, Crofty. He slowed down offline on the pit straight, just by the Alpine pit gantry, actually. Maybe to get some of the gravel out, but as we saw, he had to stop a bit later on. You know, I normally talk about a cut-off time.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be in the mid 126s, but actually I think I'm going to ratchet that down to around a 26.3, a 26.2. Everybody is going to have to go again. These conditions are so unpredictable with this wind, and surely with this, what have we got? Just over 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes left. Guys, I think they're going to have to put a new set on pretty much everyone and go again. I don't think anybody anything more than a 126.3 is safe out there. So that's the likes of Leclerc, Albon, Sainz, Stroll, Antonelli. He's definitely not safe. I think we'll see Piastri and Verstappen, Alonso and Norris going out again.
It was a 26.2 with a plus or minus margin of a couple of tenths. That is everybody on the grid or in the field that will have to go again. Colapinto won't be. Alpine are 19th and 20th currently, which is where they qualified pretty much last year. 18th and 20th in qualifying for this British Grand Prix. Let's head down to the pit wall once again. Karun Chandok, let's look at some teammate battles.
Yeah, thank you, Crofty. Just been looking at some of the data here. So you ask about Yuki Tsunoda versus Max Verstappen. Out of that 6 tenths, he's losing 4.5, Crofty, even before he gets past the old start finish straight. I'm just looking at the two McLarens. So Lando Norris was actually ahead in terms of the time comparison with Oscar as they went past the old pits, but then lost time through Copse and Beckett. The Red Bull is unbelievably fast. You guys are talking about the different wing levels there. Verstappen is 8.5 kilometers an hour faster down the Hangar straight, frankly, down most of the straight. But conversely, he's in 7-8 kilometers an hour slower through some of the fast corners. Crofty, you know I'm a complete geek. I'm in Disneyland here. There's so much data. You tell me, ask a question who you want me to look up, and I will. I can do it. This is great.
Give us an indication. Tell you what, Aston Martin battle. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. It's been a year since the last British Grand Prix, and that's the last time Lance Stroll out-qualified Fernando Alonso. Where is he losing time to his teammate this afternoon?
You'll have to give me a minute, and I will come back to you while we've got a red flag.
We'll do. We have plenty of time, sadly, at the moment, because we are still in the red flag. In fact, we have 3 minutes to go, Martin, until we can get some noise around Silverstone again.
We live by data, don't we? But we love action when it all boils down to it. And so I think that's a big sort of catering tent, isn't it, for campers and
it's a decent buffet if it is.
Masih red flag.
It's huge, isn't it?
Untungnya dapat red flag.
Live concerts in there as well, because as we were
3 menit lagi baru jalan lagi.
We can hear bands and loudspeakers in that tent. And when I say, you know, Fastonbury, it's not a bad name for this, because it is a proper festival now. And fair play to Silverstone, they have delivered some brilliant things for the fans, and the fans have come flooding in this weekend.
It's 800 acres, this site. It's a big old place, and £1 million here and there that doesn't make much of a dent in what needs doing. But remember when I came here in the '65 with my uncle, we bought orange boxes and bits of wood and that, because you stood on a bank at Copse. There weren't.
Kenapa red flag tadi kalau window?
So anything to elevate you slightly up, so you could see.
Yeah, waktunya di stop itu karena red flag.
But the place looks spectacular now.
And it's been brilliant to see so many fans and get to meet so many of the British motorsport fans here this weekend as well. While we've got time before the red flag, this is our yearly tribute to those in orange, not just the McLaren Papaya fans, but the marshals that come here and do an incredible job to make sure that we can go motor racing. Thank you for all your efforts, and if you want to become a marshal, well, there's a need, not just at the British Grand Prix, but at club events, at races throughout the country. If you want to get close to the action, there's no better way of doing it.
Yeah, plenty of places for you to go and train and get the best house in the seat and be part of motorsport. And without marshals, we wouldn't be running this session today. And somebody stopped me yesterday and said, thank you for mentioning marshals, but we're track security workers as well, and we love it, and we're volunteers too. So there are other ways of being involved in. And you're not necessarily going to get straight to the British Grand Prix first time out. You'll have to go and earn your spurs somewhere else and learn the trade. Karun, what can you tell us?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I've got the answer to Crofty's question.
Nice.
So, Lance Stroll lost a bit of time, Crofty, through Brooklands and Luffield, just not carrying as much minimum speed through Luffield. He lost a bit more coming out of Beckett's onto the Hanger Straight. The wind, I tell you, is blowing quite hard. And this red flag, I'm going to use my handometer, and it's spitting a bit more than it was at the start of the session. So this red flag hasn't helped track conditions, and the wind is up. And Lance, by the way, made a mistake, I think, coming out of Club Corner as well. He actually had to lift where we saw Colapinto go off. So there we go, 3 places for Lance. They're coming out right behind me. I can hear them here. But on slick tyres, McLaren, there goes Oscar Piastri on a set of the used tyres. But the Williams, brand new shiny tyres. Martin, you know what it's like. Shiny, slick tyres on a slightly damp track.
Soalnya udah apa? Gerimis, Cok. Wah, ini harus cepet-cepet nih. Kalau enggak bakal susah nih.
Lando Norris there doesn't have that problem. We saw Yuki Tsunoda heading out on brand new tires as well.
Iya nih. Kualifikasi kedua bisa jadi masuk harus pakai Inter.
Seems like it might be worse than before. Copy.
If you don't really consider yourself as a top 10 Q3 shootout, you might as well use your tyres up now, midfielders, and get your best shot on the grid, whether that's 11th, 12th or whatever.
And the thing about a new set of soft tyres compared to a used set of soft tyres might be about 0.3 of a second of difference of pace per lap. And that's going to make you think, if you're Charles Leclerc, when you're down in 9th place at the moment, just coming out now in his Ferrari.
Absolutely. So, a lot of cars out on the racetrack. 10 out, 10 in at the moment, and I think there's 11 out now. I think they'll all be, all the 19 that are still in the running.
Tracknya belum basah banget, cuman udah mulai gerimis. Udah mulai raindrop.
Well, they all know that they've got to be out there now if the fastest guy has, and that's what Ted was saying with his cut-off time, and you plus or minus it by 0.2, and that does include Oscar. Oscar Piastri, third qualifying hour at a British Grand Prix, was third on the grid in 2023, was fifth on the grid last year, comes here as the championship leader after his teammate Lando Norris won in Austria, and that championship lead, 15 points between himself and Lando Norris. They're free to race and to attack each other during the race. Pole position, though, could be absolutely crucial, and he just wants to gather some momentum back for himself.
That is definitely not the same. Possibly. Understood.
There's a man who knows what it is like to be on pole position here 7 times before.
He's backed off Piastri.
Yes, that's why George Russell is now just right behind him. Now, Charles Leclerc has been noted for a yellow flag infringement. Now, has he overtaken someone under yellow flags, which would have been, I would imagine, when Franco Colapinto was just going around the track? Could that be it? We'll keep you posted as best we can whilst we ride on board with Alex Albon, putting a huge amount of trust, Alex Albon, in the Mercedes of George Russell, who was on the inside as he went through Copse. Brilliant sequence of corners here. Before, Martin, you take the little left-hand kink here at Chapel, and you can relax a touch down the Hanger Straight.
Hit your DRS button, though, and look how wide Stowe is on the way in. 40 metres before the corner he braked. You know, you can just lean on the curb through the exit. Over there's a little blind crest, blind to them. Pick up that left-hand apex, that's sweet, because that opens up this right, but he had to correct the slide, and then a second slide, and over the line, but he's gone faster.
Third fastest for Alex Albon. As you make your way through Club, out of that chicane into Club, the right-hander, the wind is really pushing you, and it's pushing you from the outside of the track towards the inside. You're having to deal with quite a strong crosswind there. So Alex Albon goes third fastest. Nico Hülkenberg gets himself out of the danger places for a moment, but only just 14th for him. Gabriel Bortoleto goes 11th fastest. It's 6-5 in Hülkenberg's favour so far this season in the qualifying head-to-head battle. Could it be 6-6 by the end of this session as Verstappen goes quickest once again by a 10th from Oscar Piastri, and we're on board with Tsunoda.
Hi, Yuki.
Yeah, Verstappen very fast, fastest of anybody through the middle sector. I don't understand why other drivers can't get anywhere near in a Red Bull, but Yuki Tsunoda doing his best to steal a bit of slipstream down the Hanger Straight. And back end of the car just looking a little bit unstable as he turned into Stowe. And let's see what he's going to do sector-wise. And Beerman is now the fastest man in the middle part of the lap. Explain that one.
Well, that 10-place grid penalty is so costly for an Ollie Behrman as Tsunoda goes 6th fastest, an Ollie Behrman that has been banging form at times this weekend. He goes 3rd fastest overall. Charles Leclerc crosses the line to start a lap. No further investigation on his yellow flag infringement. Esteban Ocon goes 7th fastest. Haas found some qualifying pace here this weekend. And we're on board now with Kimi Antonelli, who's got a 3-place grid drop, goes 8th.
Yeah. And that's a bit of a worry for him as well in this session. So, wow, that's quite something. That's a tremendous lap from Ollie Beerman. Ocon not too bad either in 7th. So for Haas to pull that kind of lap time out, it tells you the track has changed. The wind direction's changed a little bit too.
Now this is critical for Charles Leclerc, who hasn't improved in the first sector. They'll be queuing up to go again and to put another lap in. We heard George Russell with his engineer Marcus Dudley talk about being fueled for 2 laps, 2 push laps. Well, Charles Leclerc, because of when he came out onto the track and when he started his flying lap, he's only going to get 1 in before the checkered flag, and he needs to pick up the pace here.
That Ferrari's so low at the bag. What else is coming?
Can I go again or not?
Negative.
Hamilton pits.
There's still time. Why would I have power?
Got no fuel.
Well, this might be a big mistake by Ferrari. Hamilton pits, and behind him others will be going again. We'll see how it all pans out. Can Charles Leclerc improve from 13th? He does. He goes 8th fastest, pushes Hamilton closer to the drop zone. Remember, we're looking for the slowest 5 here.
Surely Ferrari knew they might have to run to the end with yellow flags. Hadjar does as well, and Hamilton down in 13th place and under massive pressure.
I don't understand why Ferrari didn't give Lewis Hamilton 2 laps. Lawson goes 14th fastest, only 14th. And I don't understand why Charles Leclerc only had 1 lap either. I know they're saving tyres and stuff, but it's like the lottery. You've got to be in it to win it, and Sainz improving now.
Sainz is about to do a cracking lap. That'll push Hamilton down to 14th. Who else then behind? Maybe Gasly. Maybe, I think Lewis might just be all right with this one. We'll see what Gasly can do.
But it's touch and go as George Russell moves up 10th and takes the checkered flag. Gasly, Colapinto, they're down at the bottom. Sainz goes 8th fastest, pushes Hamilton to 14th, but crucially for him, Bortoletto, Stroll, Hülkenberg, Colapinto, all in the pits or out. Only Gasly can finish off his lap here and try and improve. He does. He goes 15th fastest. He gets out of the bottom 5, pushes Lawson down into it a week after his career best finish in Austria, and Lewis Hamilton can just breathe a little more easily. But why Ferrari didn't give him 2 laps?
Udah lama, cuman akumulasi hari. Gue baru sampai di sini tuh tanggal 2, tanggal 3, tanggal 4. Kemarin lah baru beres banget gitu.
But so I tell you what, Mercedes are breathing a bit of a sigh of relief as well.
Kerasa
in
capek
11th and 12th,
banget.
but it doesn't matter. It's all about getting through to the next round.
Tadi cuma ngetes
and then
doang
there's reset
sebenarnya.
on times.
And in the end, the cut-off was Liam Lawson with a 1:26.4. And where did Liam Lawson lose a little bit of time? Just got into the gravel on the entry into Stowe.
Yeah, I have no grip. I have no idea what happens.
And then got all crossed up, trying to get out of it. But Liam Lawson, for his first British qualifying exploits, sadly only P16. Gabriel Bortoletto makes it 6-6 at Sauber. He out-qualifies Hülkenberg. The 2 of them are both out. Stroll is out again in Q1, and Colapinto causing that red flag, 20th and slowest.
We meet again at Silverstone for this famous race.
Oh,
to Silverstone.
udah Marcel, halo.
Norris has come alive. What a move!
This is just remarkable, isn't it?
Kenapa pindah kos? Ya pindah bro, pindah kota.
Silverstone will go supersonic.
this Women's Africa Cup of Nations, Morocco.
Feel the pulse of a continent, where Africa's fiercest women warriors clash for glory in the Women's Africa Cup of Nations 2024.
There's a chance for a second. South African lead by 2 goals to 0 in this final, and he'll never higher.
It's women's power. Don't miss WAFCON 2024, live from Morocco.
Ready for glory.
Cars going to battle with some very feisty drivers. The pressure is mounting. These rookies are serious.
Surely this will end in tears. And he's done it.
This is outstanding.
Hamilton hampir nggak lolos sampai komentar dia nggak ngerti sama strategi. Iya makanya. Semoga paling sukses. Iya lebih lega jauh. Thank you Riz. Thank you Riz. Teman dalam isu masuk YouTube bagus. Ya gitulah.
Tutor, born to dare.
Are we through? We are through in P15, only just, but we are through. Well done.
Yeah, we did good.
Well done.
Max yang pengen cabut ke Mercedes enggak? Max nggak pengen banget, yang pengen kan Toto.
Lando Norris, Zach Brown, the CEO at McLaren, on the pit wall. Okay, Zach, first things first, you're through, but not the dominance that we might have expected from McLaren in that session.
We always knew it was going to be close. As I told you guys earlier, I was expecting Haas and Williams and Aston to be right in there.
That's quite extraordinary. I mean, it's so close, Zach. So close. But why exactly? How do we explain to the fans that last weekend you just dominated, even fighting each other? This weekend you're under pressure from Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari, and others.
Yeah, no, this Q1 was interesting. We'll see how things materialize. I think the colder weather and the wind don't play to our advantages, so I think that's one of the reasons why we're maybe not as quick as we'd hope to be. That being said, I think we've got a shot at the front row here. I was a little bit surprised by the Ferraris. Fully expected them to be much quicker, but it's a reset now. Let's see what happens in Q2.
And before we get to Q2, turn your head to the right, further down the pit lane on our pit wall is Karun Chandok. He's got a question for you.
Hi Zach, I'm waving across. Just want to ask about that first run, because you can see Verstappen, obviously that lower downforce, much quicker than your drivers in a straight line. You guys are not committed to this downforce package for the race. Are you concerned, in terms of overtaking? If he does get in front, is that going to be a challenge? Conversely, if he's behind, is that going to be a problem for you?
Yeah, he's in another league in top speed, so he has been all weekend, very strong. Tomorrow there's a threat of rain, so there's always a balance between optimizing qualifying and optimizing the race. But I think Max is going to be hard tomorrow, whether he's in front of us or behind us. I'm expecting the Ferraris to leap forward here. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but they've been much quicker all weekend. So let's see what happens here in the next session or two.
Zach, Karun, thanks ever so much. We go from the pit wall to what they call the media pen, where the drivers go after they've been knocked out because he crashed into the barriers and caused a red flag. Franco Colapinto was first out. Here he is.
Sorry to see you at this stage. Just tell us about the moment, the problem, the entry into Vale that eventuated in you being in the barriers.
I just, lost the car on the exit of the last corner. Was not an easy day for us, and I just struggled a bit to find the limit in Q1. I was trying to push to get closer to those gaps that we were lacking, and unfortunately a little mistake, and I ended up our qualifying there. Sorry for the team. Hopefully not too much damage.
Well, I can tell by your body language you're massively disappointed. Obviously There's a lot of pressure in this sport, but what about the car? What was possible today, do you think? I mean, what the performance levels of this car?
I think Q2 was possible, you know, PR is in Q2, and we've been very close in terms of pace, so probably was possible in Q2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Third Q1 exit of the season for Franco Colapinto in 6 races, same as Jack doing, incidentally. Nico Hülkenberg out, as well as Gabriel Bortoleto, third double Q1 elimination for the 2 Sauber cars as well. It's 6-6 between those 2 drivers, and Lawson and Bortoleto, Martin, at Q1 this week, after they both got through the Q3 last week.
Leclerc, nomor 2 tuh pacarnya Albon.
Terus
gue cuma tahu itu doang sih, gue nggak ngerti dah wax ini. Kalau wax ini nggak hafal kayak gitu-gitu.
Piastri, out comes Fernando Alonso. Unusual pit lane because it goes down and sort of behind, much lower than the pit wall. That's why the teams are not lined up in last year's championship order here as they normally are.
They've changed it this year.
Have they?
Have you been into the pit lane yet?
I have, but I was only reading that.
Yeah, you got Sauber at the end, and right at pit lane entrance end is McLaren. Yeah. I think the teams have actually said, certainly the bigger teams, hang on a minute, we want the advantage of being right at the beginning of the pit lane here, especially for a race that could be a 2-stop race this year.
And absolutely, and it's a pit lane, whilst it's very, very long, because you missed the last 3 corners out effectively. And you go inside the first corner, it's a net 20-second loss, which makes it well worth the stop if your tyres are degrading.
Max Verstappen then, out on track. He and Fernando Alonso, the only drivers to be leading their teammates without a reply so far this season. And that will continue on for Fernando Alonso. As Lance Stroll is out, Max Verstappen still has Yuki Tsunoda in the fight. In Austria, Tsunoda was, just over 2.5 tenths away from Verstappen in Q1. He went out, Max went through. Such were the fine margins that day.
If you open the DRS in the DRS zones, it helps warm up front tyres because it puts the aero load forward. And of course, it's easier to warm your rear tyres because you've got 1,000 horsepower to do that. It's harder to warm the fronts. You've got the brakes and the cornering to do that with.
We used to have DRS down this straight and into Abbey, and then when Marcus Ericsson had his moment in the Sauber, they decided it wasn't a great place really to put a DRS zone. But Verstappen then starts this latest push lap, rear end sliding away a little bit through Village, but that looked pretty neat and tidy in what has been an excellent part of the track for the Red Bull so far this weekend, helped by that skinnier rear wing and a lack of downforce. It's a 27.6 for the first sector.
A tenth quicker than he did in Q1, so he's finding time, and this is what the great drivers can do. They just start acing it. They know where they can go a little bit faster. And Kopp's corner coming up then. Let's have a look at this. Just look at the direction change. 5.5
Gila, Red Bull kenceng, Cok.
Force of gravity through there, because the aerodynamics are creating a couple of 1,000 kilos of downforce for a car that weighs 900 basically with fuel and driver on board. So it's got enormous downforce from all of the wings and the paraphernalia. DRS then will close as he touches the brakes into Stowe to give him the downforce, the stability, and he's quick in the middle sector as well. Max Verstappen, as ever, wringing the neck of that Red Bull.
And the only one getting really close to him is Oscar Piastri, and as I say that, Carlos Sainz through the first sector. Verstappen with 1:25.3, by half a second from his best time in Q1. The 2 Ferraris 3-4 tenths behind in the first part of the lap. There's always issues, upshift, downshift, gear issues with Verstappen in that Red Bull. Verstappen is under pressure from Piastri here, who's gone quicker in the middle sector. The Ferrari Charles Leclerc a long way off.
Gearboxnya nggak enak aja masih ini, masih P1 ya.
Gila, Fernando Alonso is setting some decent sector time. Sainz in the first sector, as I said, very impressive. Here comes Oscar Piastri, and look at that.
Sama persis 316.
Verstappen, but goes behind him because he did it second. Wow, 1:25.316 for them both as Alonso once again.
Aston Martin lagi ngebut ya?
Way too slow. I'm having to back up.
I can see that.
George Russell Who was he behind on the outlap? I think that might have been Kimi Antonelli that he was talking about as Hamilton goes 6th fastest, Fernando Alonso 5th fastest on the grid. And we look to Isaac Hadjar next to cross the line as he makes his way up into P6. So I think George wanted to get a hurry on there to put some energy into the tyres. And just saying, come on, Kimi, you need to go a bit faster. Keanu Reeves is here today. Ollie Behrman goes 7th fastest, and Keanu Reeves makes his way into the paddock to see the culmination of qualifying. He's working on a documentary with Cadillac as well. At the moment, we've got 22 cars for the Formula One season next year as Lando Norris puts in a 34.1 for the middle sector. Blistering middle sector. Takes the applause from the Lando stands, crosses the line, and goes 85 thousandths of a second clear of his teammate and Max Verstappen.
Yeah, that was a handy lap there from Lando Norris. Let's see what Mercedes can do. We thought they were going to be faster than they looked in Q1. Turns in, he takes a very, very tight line through the left-hander. This right-hander nips through the exit, but then the line comes up almost immediately.
Only P11 there for Kimi Antonelli. What of George Russell next across the line? Puts his car into the top 4 just ahead of Fernando Alonso, and half a second now covers the top 5 here in Q2. It was, just under 7/10 covering P1 to P19 in Q1.
Where's Ferrari's pace gone?
I don't know.
We saw, literally, it was a plug and play, wasn't it, Friday?
What Antonelli is doing?
Yeah, Antonelli crazy.
I mean, it's good. He will get a penalty. Good position for us.
He gets a 3-place penalty anyway, and I wonder if, once again, they felt with Alonso behind Antonelli that he was just going a little slow on his outlap.
Yeah, 3-place penalty for smashing into Max Verstappen just last weekend in Austria, if you remember.
Have Ferrari looked at the weather reports, thought we might need a bit of extra downforce here for tomorrow, and it's cost them in terms of straight line speed and a qualifying pace. Charles Leclerc yesterday saying on the radio, look, this looks good, we just need to work a little bit on what we've got for qualifying. It doesn't seem that they've done that necessarily.
Well, it's tomorrow when they have their points up, but if you don't start in the top 6, the field spread and the opportunity to have a shunt in the first few corners gets dramatically higher.
And even if you account for the 0.3 of a second that you lose by having used tyres,
besok gue nggak live ya teman-teman.
They're not exactly
soalnya gue ke Kemang.
For first place.
No, it's very strange. Very, very strange. Leclerc's car looks incredibly low. I think what they're doing is running the car lower.
Iya, aman. Setelah quali,
some tricks in the race with lift and coast to help
ngantuk gue dari tadi merem-merem ke
underneath the car. That's a legality
tikop saya kencang banget kayak gitu,
From what I understand, is one of their
ada acara acara
so
ini F1 Nobel.
But my goodness,
nonton
Leclerc's
balap
car was
bareng
really
di Kemang.
The floor around the racetrack.
And from 8th at the moment down to 11th, it is less than 1/10 of a second, but the Ferrari pace was so much stronger in FP3. Ted, down to you.
We'll see what happens when they put some new tyres on and go again. No really other way to explain it, Crofty. They've been fairly consistent on their downforce level, as have Red Bull. I mean, Red Bull started the weekend on the low downforce, and they've kept to the low downforce. So there's been little sort of change in that area. So I'm just thinking the conditions aren't really favourable. Important lap, I thought, from George Russell there after Mercedes had a bit of a fractious session. We'll see what happens to Kimi Antonelli, whether he gets a blocking penalty or not. But yeah, at last we're seeing a bit of pace from that Mercedes. All quiet in the pit lane at the moment.
It certainly is. So that's a good time to go to the pit wall. Karun Chandok.
Hi, Crofty. Yeah, just trying to answer that question about Ferrari pace. Obviously, in Q2, they were on a used set of tyres, so it's not really a fair comparison. In Q1, if I look at Leclerc's best time versus Piastri, for example, similar downforce levels, he's losing a lot of time through Brooklands and Luffield is the Ferrari, and similarly for Lewis. Martin, I think I just heard you say about the Ferrari dragging the bottom of the car along the ground. Weirdly, Lewis is losing speed and therefore lap time through Cobb's corner, which maybe that could be the reason, right? If it's just bottoming it out and dragging along. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
there.
but it closes the Venturi out, doesn't it? It chokes basically the underfloor, which in a straight line is quite handy. If you can,
Ferrari
you can
lucu
choke
tadi,
and dump some rear downforce. You don't need it in Cobbs though.
So out they come for their next foray onto this racetrack. If you were George Russell and you were Kimi Antonelli, would you, well, if you were Kimi Antonelli, you'd maybe want a set of new tyres to go onto that Mercedes, but I'm told he's on a set of used tyres. Oh, they were on a set, sorry, I'm told they were on a set of used tyres when they did their previous laps. Well, if that's the case, George Russell is bang on the pace then with this.
Yeah. So, Nick Hamilton watching on at Ferrari. And, well, I have to say, through free practice, Lewis just looked imperious out there, didn't he? And like the Ferrari was really working beautifully. But maybe we're about to see that again. And he's just trying to buy himself a bit of time, I think. They want slow out laps to make sure the tyres are still with them.
Looked like some cars were bending the rules a little, leaving garages there.
What they mean is that it took Charles Leclerc a little bit of time, and in doing so forced the McLaren to stop and allow Lewis Hamilton to nip in between.
Yeah, a little bit of team play going on.
Yeah. Which of course McLaren or any other team would never do, and still some sort of an advantage. Good to see Fred Vasseur back on the pit wall. He missed Austria and back at the helm of Ferrari this weekend. Ferrari, who have 16 pole positions here at Silverstone, and Lewis Hamilton, who has 7 pole positions here at Silverstone, the most by any constructor, the most by any driver. And at the moment, Hamilton P11 and Charles Leclerc down at P13, but it all could change in the next 3 minutes.
Top 3 all on used tyres. They're not going to burn and waste one of their valuable allocation. And then both Ferraris on new tyres, which will put them at a disadvantage in Q3.
But you've got to be in it to win it, absolutely, as they say.
It always looks so much shorter from that camera angle, doesn't it, Hangar Straight, than it does coming the other way. Adrian
Newey has ventured out of his office, which is half a mile down the road from Silverstone Circuit, or it is now, and donned his Aston Martin green to have a little look around in the garage for what is their team's home race and his first race at Silverstone with his new team. It's Lewis Hamilton's first race with his new team too, and he's under pressure. He needs to get out of that bottom 5, so let's see how he gets on and his teammate Charles Leclerc.
See the way he cranked the steering wheel there to really load the car up, load the front tyre up and get into turn 1. And he's really having to drive it hard into those fast corners. A little bit of oversteer. You can see so little out of those cars. I was shocked when I drove one a couple of weeks ago. Just you're peering over the top with mirrors and wheel brows and wheels, but they seem to manage it okay. And we've got a 27.5 for Hamilton in the first sector, which is very good.
And the best so far, 27.6 for Ollie Behrman, 27.6 for Fernando Alonso, 27.6 for Charles Leclerc too. They're all very much in contention. 27.6 for Carlos Sainz is now on the board as Hamilton makes his way through Maggots and Beckett's. Once again, combinations of corners he's driven on so many times and has loved so many times too, and he's put in a pretty decent middle sector. This is finally Ferrari showing their pace here in qualifying. Charles Leclerc saying 34.1 for that middle sector. If a 25.6 is the cut-off time, anyone from George Russell upwards should be safe. But let's see as Charles Leclerc goes quickest with a 1:25.1, and Lewis Hamilton crosses the line to replace him right at the top. Ferrari 1 and 2, and that has gone down very well indeed with the Lewis Hamilton fans and Ferrari fans in the garages and the stands.
Absolutely, and the little hard right jink out of the last corner we've seen Lewis do in the past to save a metre or two to the finish line.
Oscar Piastri makes it to the checkered flag. Yuki Tsunoda is the next car behind him on the track, but he is finishing off a lap rather than starting it. So it's Piastri who's starting the final lap of this Q2 session. Antonelli, meanwhile, trying to get himself out of that bottom 5. Makes his way down the old pit straight as Tsunoda only makes it to P10. Wow. And I think he's in a bit of trouble here with those behind setting better sector times. Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, the top 5, Verstappen pits.
And the problem Tsunoda's got is Beerman, Alonso, Sainz are up in the top 10 as well, with some faster cars to finish yet.
Yeah, it might be touch and go here for Yuki Tsunoda. Here in qualifying, he's never reached the top 10, Q3 here before. We're on board with Kimi Antonelli, and we can go on board with his teammate George Russell too. But it's Antonelli through the final 3 corners, the Vale chicane and out of club. Can he put his Mercedes into the top 10? Yes, he can. That's Yuki Tsunoda out. He was already out because Pierre Gasly had gone P10. Carlos Sainz pits. He's out of qualifying too, with his teammate Alex Albon is also out for Williams, and that came to a bit of a damn squib in the end as one by one they tried to get into the top 10, and in the case of Sainz, Tsunoda, Hadjar, Albon and Ocon sadly failed to do so.
Just 8th and 9th for Mercedes. What another stunning lap from Ollie Beerman.
Totally different car. My bad, guys. No, we made it difficult for ourselves.
Sounds like he's asked for a setup change that went the wrong way.
Certainly does. Shall we pay tribute though to Pierre Gasly, an Alpine that has looked slower than a slow thing many times this weekend, is in Q3, and that's another splendid lap from him. Ferrari came and showed their pace finally. Hamilton and Leclerc first and second fastest. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri completed the top 5. Ocon out. Beerman through at Haas with a 10th-place penalty to come, and Antonelli through too.
Ya, itu Maxnya tadi keganggu anjir. Kepotong lagi gara-gara iklan. Sial, keganggu siapa itu, Cok? Gue tuh dilema, guys. Gue ngantuk nih. Tapi gue pengen makan gitu. Apa ya?
Tutor, born to dare.
Oh iya, beli buah ya. Ngantuk kali bang, habis makan. Malah nggak isi. Lapar gue. Gue baru makan 2 kali lagi hari ini. Gue pengen coba nonton F1 Kids dah. Seru kayaknya. Tapi gimana ya cara ininya? Nah itu nggak tahu deh, dia udah upgrade apa belum nih Ferrari. Di Bain ada. Oh di Bain ada ya. Oh, gue pakai video soalnya. Nggak hujan guys. Belum, masih kering. Tracknya masih kering banget. Bang itu nggak jadi makan kah ini? Mau pesen?
Welcome back to Silverstone. This is Max Verstappen on his final lap. Big lock up in front of him, and that's Esteban Ocon explaining the reason why he has made his way out and not through into Q3.
Udah setahun gue di video, bro.
For the first time in Isaac Hadjar's career, Albon and Sonoda and Sainz also
lebih enak di video.com sih, lebih stabil aja mereka servernya.
Zach Brown has been telling us on the McLaren pit wall all weekend long that they're a threat, and finally they showed it, Zach.
Yeah, that session there is kind of what we've been expecting. Ferrari's very quick, Max in the mix, so it's very close. So I think it'll come down to who gets the right lap in, but the top 5 there, I wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of the running order come Q3, but let's see.
I think, did Ferrari use an extra set of tyres, though, to do that at the moment? Or I think no, I think that you all go into Q3 with the same tyre allocation now. So what are you drivers saying out there? What's the feedback?
Yeah, they're pretty much the limit. They feel pretty comfortable with the car. And as you said, everyone has kind of, I think, one team maybe doesn't have 2 sets of new tires, but balance of us do. So drivers pretty happy. They're more inquisitive around some of the data of the other drivers. So I think they're trying to see if they can find some time themselves as opposed to the car.
Zach, thanks ever so much indeed. A 1-2 on the grid will be a 68th front row lockout.
Dan servernya mereka tuh lebih stabil gitu. Ketika yang lain ngomel-ngomel bin nge-lag lah itulah, gue pakai video enak banget, gue nggak ada masalah.
Crofty, I'm slightly starstruck because I've just been joined by Keanu Reeves here, who's just come and sat next to me on the pit wall. Give us a wave.
Hamilton bisa pole apa enggak? Harusnya bisa ya.
Crofty says hello from upstairs.
Harusnya bisa.
Just talking him through some of the data. He's a proper fan now. Yeah, looking at the Ferrari performance they unleashed in that session. Tell you what, Lewis was brilliant through Beckett's. Just looking at it here, fantastic run through the second part of Beckett's, up down hanger straight into Stowe. That's where he really unlocked the performance compared to Q1. If you look at the gain, 1.2 seconds is what he improved there. So we'll see, because obviously they went later compared to Oscar Piastri, for example. That's the big thing. For Yuki Tsunoda, Crofty, you know, he's saying, just where's that performance? Well, he lost a lot of time, I have to say, braking and entry into the sort of medium speed stuff. He's lost big chunks. Brooklands, Lafayette, last couple of corners. It's not so much the high speed. It's actually just, you know, the braking entry some places and a mistake at Stowe. So that's the Tsunoda story we were talking about.
Out, but he gets his highest start since Monaco 4 races ago. Thanks ever so much. Carlos Sainz will start in the top 10 because at the moment, because Ollie Behrman's got a 10-place grid penalty, and Kimi Antonelli's got 3 places coming up, so chances are that's Carlos Sainz moving up 1 place at least. Right, we get down to the crunch point here. 20 seconds to go until the green light. We have got 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 1 Red Bull, 1 Haas, 1 Aston Martin, 2 Mercedes, and an Alpine going for pole. We had a British 1-2-3 at this stage last year. If Red Bull spoil the party, make it and deny a British 1-2-3 for the second year in a row for this year. Well, Red Bull's pole would be their 107th, tying Lotus for 5th on the all-time list. Not bad for a team that's only been in existence for 20 years.
Right, you were saying to me in the break there that Ollie Behrman's got a great chance of a sensational grid slot here, all spoiled by the red flag.
It was pretty marginal by Mercedes. Copy.
Piastri kalau sekali ngomong nyelekit banget ya, anjir lucu banget. Tapi kritikal banget gitu kalau dia tiap mau ngomong.
On a track like this, I'm going to imagine you want to leave a good 5 seconds, 5 to 7 seconds to the car in front. At least, so that you're not still
enggak, dia cuma ngomong pretty marginal by Mercedes gitu doang.
A smaller plane for some time afterwards.
Kayak semuanya di komen gitu. Ternyata berisik juga si Piastri. Kelihatannya diem tapi suka ngomongin yang di belakang gitu. Diem nusuk dia ternyata.
think it's been passed to the stewards yet. We have no indication that it's been passed to the stewards yet. We'll keep you posted as and when more information comes to light. Yeah, on this day, first ever podium 2020 for Lando Norris. There wasn't a single fan at the Red Bull Ring that day to see him do it. It was during the COVID times, one of 2 races we had at Spielberg that particular year. And the race tomorrow, July the 6th, only 2 races have taken place.
Gue nggak tahu ya, gue sih feelingnya Max itu akan podium. Max tuh bakal podium, Hamilton juga bakal podium, Leclerc ya nggak nyampe podium, Piastri pun kayaknya nggak nyampe podium. Kayak tebakan gue adalah Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton. Pokoknya 3 itu, gue nggak tahu urutannya apa, tapi urutannya gimana gue nggak ngerti. Tapi lebih ke arah kayak 3 itu yang akan ngisi podium position.
They're going to be perhaps a little bit marginal in terms of temperature and pressure, but they'll build up through the 2 fast corners. This is where you need a lot of mechanical grip from the tyre and the car. And we're looking in now for a first sector time. Sub 27.5 seconds is going to be good. Beerman's done a 27.7, but we'll see.
Ini sih nggak mendung doang, belum hujan besok kayaknya. Bisa ada kayaknya ngebut profesional kayaknya ya. Diancam kayaknya sama Hamilton ya. Bisa tembus berapa bang? Apanya?
Let us see a 27.8 for Antonelli, a 27.6 for Oscar Piastri. As the championship leader puts himself,
kayaknya bakal tipis ini. Di Q3 bakal seru, maksudnya bakal tipis antara 3 orang ini, Norris, Hamilton, 4 lah. Norris, Hamilton, Max sama Piastri. 4 orang ini bakal tipis-tipis sih. Oh, waktunya 1.24 harusnya bisa sih. 1.24 harusnya bisa. Sangat memungkinkan 1.24. Out of nowhere, Gasly ternyata lolos ke Q3 guys. Gue baru sadar. 2.52.
By half a tenth from his best time
2.52.
in Q2.
Gue yakin 2.4.
Piastri is a tenth up as Antonelli goes
gila,
third
Piastri
fastest behind the Haas of Ollie Beerman. Now to the line we go with Oscar Piastri, and he's on provisional
tuh kan 24
Max
anjir.
Verstappen and the first driver this weekend into the 1 minute
siapa ini?
24s. Lando Norris
itu siapa?
next
Lucu banget. Siapa tuh cewek? Lucu banget. Ceweknya Piastri. Masa sih?
Behind his teammate.
Adanya Piastri. Siapa itu tadi anjir? Anjir lucu banget, sumpah.
Russell, like Ferrari, Mercedes need to start delivering up their potential, and now's the time to do it. But
difficult car for Max Verstappen. Russell onto the second row, replaced on that second row by Charles Leclerc. Round the final corner, here comes Hamilton. He's on the front row with Oscar Piastri.
Gila, Hamilton ngepush parah coy. Seru sih ini. Oh, udah mulai gerimis kan, gerimisnya tipis banget tapi.
7th fastest ahead of Beerman. Antonelli disappointing first lap from him, and Pierre Gasly we're yet to see get a time on the board.
Used tyres for Mercedes as we know, but apparently Lando Norris went deep into turn 3, lost some time there. So he's got, he can go faster than that.
Nah, sementara masih tebakan gue ya, bener ya. Biasanya 4 orang ini bertarung gitu loh, tipis-tipis gitu ya kan. Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen. Emang 4 orang ini gila sih. Leclerc lah, tambahin Leclerc lah. Pindah kamar enggak, pindah kosan. Pindah kota.
Ferrari showing their pace, and Hamilton, who's only out-qualified his teammate on 2 occasions for a Grand Prix so far this season, ahead then of Charles Leclerc. Piastri,
mamanya Hamilton
as well, and his brother Nick at the back of that Ferrari garage. I'm going to say Oscar Piastri ahead of Lando Norris, who's never been out-qualified by his teammate here at Silverstone in 7 previous Silverstone starts. He's got 1 more run to go. It's not over yet.
So Piastri found 3/10. Hamilton actually still slightly slower than he was in Q2 on that run. The track temperature has gone up 3 degrees, 10% since the torrential rain stopped coming down and the sun came out.
I was so confident today. I've come here in an open top little sports car and I've not even brought a coat or a brolly. I knew there'd be no big rain here today. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Oscar Piastri through Stowe.
This is what his floor will be about. I'm going to run wide here, I imagine. Yeah, and you can feel it through your backside as the plank connects with the serrated edges of the curb. A little bit of oversteer, bang, bang, bang.
Set, langsung gitu.
And that's why he wants to make sure there's no bits hanging off the floor. Not there's anything they can do about it now.
Itu leher peng langsung gitu. Belok peng. Belum.
I'm concentrating on the job, Crofty, I can assure you.
You've had a selfie and asked for his autograph in the 5 minutes since we were last with you.
I haven't done one of those things. So, yeah, just looking at the data here about that error you're talking about at Stowe. Oscar went in.
Kira-kira satu run lagi.
You could see the understeer just on that.
Bukan satu lap, tapi bikin satu run lagi. Waktunya 4,5 menit.
Then Lewis Hamilton through the apex, just trying to charge at speed. Clearly, the front tire wasn't having it. So he lost a bit of time on the way out. But Hamilton lost to Piastri at the left-hander of the loop. That's where the time difference is. And to be honest, through the rest of the lap, it's pretty much the same, apart from the exit of the last corner. So just 2 places where Lewis has lost a little bit of time for that 0.13 of a gap.
And let's head to Zach Brown, CEO of McLaren. Very quickly, damage to Oscar Piastri's car or not, Zach?
A little bit, but we're going to send him out. Nothing that should compromise him.
And we heard that Lando ran a bit wide in turn 3 on his first effort.
Yeah, I think he can tidy it up a little bit here, so I think it's going to be a very close final session here. Oscar's time is very, very good, but these top 5 can end up in any order here in the next lap.
And is this Lando's weekend to be the first of the 2 McLarens out of the pits?
No, I think we've got Oscar.
Piastri
Lando is the first out of the pit. Sorry.
Piastri kan Australia. Does he choose that then, Zach? Because Oscar was ahead of him on the first run, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's a team discussion, depending on the situation.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Zach, and thank you for your contribution
Australia
so
masih under
this weekend.
British.
Right, all comes down to this then, Martin. 3.5 minutes
masih under
to go.
UK, benar.
We've had the practice, we've had the first runs in this whole shootout, and in round about 5 minutes' time, we'll be able to talk about who's on pole, who can join George Russell, Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Max and Lewis Hamilton as a pole sitter at Silverstone.
It's great. It reminds me of Monaco qualifying, actually.
Yeah.
It seems that intense and unpredictable.
Yeah, plenty of people will be intense later. This is the intense moment for qualifying.
Jadi kalau Hamilton bisa pole sih, wah keren banget ya.
Lewis then buying himself a bit of space again. He's letting his teammate Leclerc get off down the road, and that's obviously the safest place to sit and wait is in the pit exit, as long as you're not holding others up too long or unreasonably.
11 front row starts here for Lewis Hamilton, who was on the front row.
Hamilton benar-benar disorot ini di sini.
2021. That's equal to his
Padahal ya Inggris tuh banyak ya, ada Norris, ada Russell, ada Bearman. Banyak loh yang Inggris ya. Tapi yang benar-benar disorot cuma Hamilton doang. Bingung gue kenapanya aja.
Are going to carry grid penalties, of course, with Bearman
titik-titik berwarna.
Oh,
itu per sektor.
Before Oscar Piastri.
Itu kan per sektor itu. Jadi ada 3 sektor itu.
I wouldn't want my main rival for the championship in my field of vision. I'd rather be out front.
Well, here he is then, Lando Norris, with his final lap of this qualifying hour. 3rd on the grid last year. He's currently 3rd on the grid for 2025. Does he improve from here?
It's quite high again in 3, but that tightens him up in 4. Maybe that's the line he likes. We'll have a look. 27.5 is the benchmark for the first sector. Let's see what Lando's done. It needs to be a good one. It's 27.6. It's all right. That's all you can say to that. I think Luffield breathe in the middle, pick the throttle up way before the exit, ride the curb. He's gone to the inside quite early. He wants to do the least amount of meters, doesn't mind scrubbing a little bit. Copse corner. Yeehaw! Brilliant through there. So just keep powering through the corner. Stay flat out now, flat out, flat out. Think about slowing down a little bit. Get off the brake pedal, go. And then ease it into the legendary hanger straight, diagonal that straight for the shortest route to be in the
sektor 1 diambil siapa? Hamilton.
Corner, DRS.
Wah anjir seru banget.
Hamilton's doing brilliant sector times out there. So is
Piastri. Sektor 2-nya jelek.
Something pretty special in the closing.
Hamilton akankah?
Drive for the line.
As Lando Norris then tries to put his McLaren on provisional pole, misses out.
No, Norris miss.
Lando Norris.
Piastri, kita lihat Piastri. Sektor 3-nya kak. Gagal. Hamilton, come on. Wah ini bagus. Come on man, come on Hamilton, come on. Ayo.
Just kicking up the dirt, under braking. 11 front rows for Lewis Hamilton here at Silverstone before 7 poles.
Oh no. Ya anjir, dia nginjek debu. Max, come on Max.
Max Verstappen, can he knock one of the McLarens off the
let's go.
The sector
Come on, Max.
Suggesting yes he can.
Verstappen is finding immense amounts of pace here through the first 2/3 of the lap. Has he pushed too soon? Has he got enough in hand? Can he make it a third pole for a British Grand Prix? We knew it was going to be tight and close. It's McLaren on the front row locking it out unless this man can deny them. And he's taken pole here at Silverstone. Shows the last possible moment to go out and and he delivered at the last.
Max bro, gue bilang apa? Max bro, Max bisa Max. Gila nih orang anjing sakit cok.
So controlled. His steering wheel movements were so limited. It was absolutely perfect. The car was in exactly the right place, carrying speed.
Gila sih Max anjing.
Not catching curbs.
You went motor racing, Max. That's pole position. Great job.
Yes. Gila.
What a lap. 24.8, mate. Pole position, British Grand Prix.
Anjir, nih orang.
That is simply lovely.
And a simply lovely time to say goodbye to our viewers.
Anjir, nih orang aneh cok. Mobilnya nggak enak loh. Gearboxnya nggak enak loh. Anjir. Sakti cok orangnya nih cok. Sakti cok. Piastri gagal di cup terakhir tuh. Dia mau cosplay F1 the movie anjir. Mau jadi Sonny Hayes ya.
Lando taking way too much curb there. The car bounces wide.
Sayangnya Hamilton tuh bisa tadinya. Nih di sektor 2 dia bagus, sektor 3-nya dia nginjek tuh terlalu dalam, terlalu keluar ke kanan, nginjek pasir dia ngeremnya, jadi agak tuh kan. Aduh, bayangin 0,1 dia, 0,1 dari Piastri tadinya. Coba kalau nggak ada dia nggak ngelakuin kesalahan, gue yakin P2 kalau nggak bisa pole itu. Aduh, Hamilton terlalu ini juga dia. Tuh padahal bagus itu Hamilton. Tuh tapi cok, Max literally perfect run cok. Lihat tuh. Oh hampir perfect run. Dia sektor 1-2-nya ungu, purple ya. Sektor 3-nya dia loss. Lossnya pun 0,1. Gila nih orang aja. Padahal dia bermasalah sama gearboxnya dari mobilnya. Kacau men nih orang. Sakti cok. Gak ngerti. Kayaknya dia makannya beling apa gimana, nggak paham. Keren cok anjir. Iya. Jadi buat orang-orang yang mempertanyakan dia bakal pindah ke Mercedes dan segala macam. Tadi gue udah jelasin ya pada waktu gue live yang sore ya. Itu tuh Max itu menurut gue bukan Max itu masih pengen bisa bertahan di Red Bull coy. Karena di Red Bull itu dia dapat privilege yang luar biasa gitu loh. sayang banget kalau, dan gue jujur gue nggak setuju kalau misalnya Max itu pindah dari Red Bull. Gitu.
I think, to be honest, anybody in the top 5 down to Lewis can be one.
Iya, dan si Max itu ngobrol sama siapapun gitu, sama Toto ngobrol, dia ngomong jujur-jujuran ya, lu kalau bisa nawarin bagus ya oke gitu. Tapi kan di si Max itu juga fair kan, maksudnya gua ada klausul kontrak nih, kalau mereka sendiri, mereka tuh maksudnya Red Bull tidak bisa memberikan mobilnya yang bagus ke gue, atau gue nggak ada improvement, jadinya ya itu bisa jadi di klausul kontraknya bisa kecapai gitu loh, bisa keluar dianya. Cuman kan kalau apa ya namanya, musim masih panjang ya guys ya, masih balapan keberapa ini gitu loh.
Home race, third on the grid, but it's such tight margins out there today. Yes, good qualifying. You know, I'm not going to be happy with.
Gue nggak jadi ngantuk gara-gara ini, jago nih orang nih.
Max did a good job, not quick enough for us today. But still a fun qualifying. Qualifying around here in Silverstone is pretty fast.
Iya, Om Warden langsung balik lagi. Change your fucking car. Udah kelar, si Toto malu aja. Gila ya. Tapi McLaren sih still the best sih. Itu tadi error sendiri aja sih. Itu gue juga kaget aja. Gue nggak expect Max bakal dapat pole position, to be honest. Gitu. Nggak P4 juga, tapi gue tuh malah mikirnya ya udah podium P2 atau P3 gitu kan. Gue tuh malah mikirnya si Norris yang bakal dapat. Anjir, Norrisnya mistake, Piastri mistake, Hamilton harapan satu-satunya mistake. Lu tiba-tiba Max perfect lap, hampir almost perfect lap. Sektor 1, sektor 2 dia tiba-tiba kencang banget, sektor 3-nya sayang banget. Dia lost 0,1 detik. Berarti seharusnya dia itu dapat 1247 harusnya. Gila ya. Lu bayangin aja, dengan ada problem di mobilnya, problem di mesinnya, tapi tetap P1 itu kan berarti orang ini sakti. Sakti.
I was happy with the first lap. The first lap was mega, to be honest. I was trying to think of how I was going to go faster than it, and I didn't. So, yeah, the last lap was a little bit messy, but it's been tight all weekend, and
iya, OTGJ itu sih Max. Astiknya sektor 3, iya. Makanya. Bang beli topi Red Bull di mana? Enggak, ini dapat gratis. Gua menang apa sim racing. Gua dapat gratis ini. Dan kebetulan topinya Max, jadi gua pakai terus aja. Langsung gua pakai terus. Dan ini ori guys. Ini tuh ori. Ini tuh harganya aslinya itu berapa ya, sejuta mungkin, lupa gue dapet ini. Halo Bro Anwar, welcome. Gue nggak beli ini, gue dapet gratis, ini asli. Kan biasanya gue pakai Red Bull yang putih ya. Bang, info jacket atau tribute F1 mau beli, ada di ship itu loh, Sport Surveyor itu biasanya ada tuh di situ. Cari aja di TikToknya ada kok. Ship Sport Surveyor ada.
Yeah, I think so. It's gonna be a fun race. You know, it's been very evenly matched between us.
Quali selalu Q3-nya seru. Q1, Q2 ngantuk lah udah pasti. Q3 race-nya besok jam 8. Jam 8 dan gue nggak live ya teman-teman ya. Gitu. Besok gue nggak live karena gue ada di Kemang ya. Ada nonton balap di situ, nonton event juga gitu. So kok berhenti, tapi ya udahlah, pas berarti. Pas. Oke, itu dia teman-teman, thank you. Oh, ada nih.
How did you do it?
Sorry.
Yeah, it was tricky out there with the wind throughout whole of qualifying Q1.
Tuh, topinya sama Max. Oh beda sih. Beda aja. Tapi ada ininya dia. Ini kayaknya yang lama deh. Carnex ini yang lama ini.
Yeah, just trying to tie
dia tahun lalu kayaknya. Topi tahun lalu.
Yeah, that final lap was good enough, but yeah, it was proper. I mean, this is a proper track, you know, in qualifying when you have to go flat out and all these corners. It's yeah, you have to be really committed, and that's really enjoyable.
Yeah, you say the last lap was good enough. It looked pretty unbelievable from when I was watching it. You've also got a trimmed out car on downforce, a choice that you made overnight. So I was thinking this is a setup choice with the race in mind, but you've nailed it on pole for qualifying already.
Yeah, exactly. We're quite quick on the straight, which of course is not that easy in the high-speed corners to manage, but we did today, luckily. Of course, we have to wait and see what you know tomorrow will do. If there's a bit of rain around or not.
Jadi pengen topinya.
I'm happy of course.
Bang, selain Evan nonton balapan apa? Gue sih nonton balapan apa aja. Ke MotoGP pun nonton, tapi cuman sekelebet aja. Nggak yang ngikutin banget gitu, yang nerd banget enggak. Kalau nerd banget gue di F1 gitu. Review unboxing topi enggak lah. Jumat ngacir, Sabtu Minggu kocar kacir. Enggak lah, Hamilton 56 ternyata. 56 Hamilton Leclerc. Oke lah. Not bad kok. Masih oke. Kimi Antonelli bagus tuh. Gasly juga nggak bisa ngapa-ngapain lah. Max dengan duo McLaren-nya gitu ya. Udah berasa kayak Max tuh kakaknya terus ada adiknya gitu ya, si McLaren ini. Anjir, lucu banget. Bang, ini live-nya nggak mau besok aja. Oh, biar Max menang gitu ya. Itu Jose Mourinho, bos. Anjir, Jose Mourinho, bos. Jose Mourinho, gue baru tahu anjir. Keren, the special one. Oke, teman-teman, thank you yang udah nonton dari awal sampai akhir. Ya itu ya, kualifikasinya seru banget. Gue juga nggak expect tiba-tiba seseru ini, dan Max ternyata pole position. Ternyata gue nggak ngejinx lagi ya. Ini topi lagi-lagi membawa keberuntungan untuk Max malahan. So, thank you. Dan see you Senin ya teman-teman. Gue live Senin untuk main game lagi ya.